Hi there, welcome back to DemonView, and in this video we're going to be doing the most horrible thing of all. The thing that every creator absolutely hates doing. It's horrible. We're going to be doing an overheating test with the GoPro Hero 10, Hero 11 and Hero 12 and seeing what the difference is between them. Now don't get me wrong, GoPros, in my opinion, don't have an overheating problem, they have a user issue. This means that a badly set up camera being used by someone who doesn't know how to film will overheat. It's as simple as that. So I'm going to show you that happening, and then I'm going to do something interesting. I'm going to set up the cameras the way that I'd have them set up when filming and show you what a difference that makes. So sit back, relax and enjoy. This is DemonView. Hi there, welcome back to the channel. I appreciate you tuning in. Now, as I said, I absolutely hate doing overheating videos. They're almost as bad as creating battery test videos. You spend a long time sitting here doing nothing, waiting on the cameras to shut down, and it's a huge time suck. However, there's a very important reason I'm making this video, and simply put, a lot of people have gotten a new GoPro camera for Christmas. They're going to take it out of the box, put an SD card and a battery in there and start filming, and then cry, complain and moan when the camera shuts down due to overheating. They'll all say stuff like, this camera's no good, it overheats, I'm off to complain in my favourite forum, I'm sending my camera back for a replacement that doesn't overheat. Look, you have a power horse of a camera in a small form factor. It can shoot up to 5.3K, apply real-time Emmy Award-winning stabilization, colour correction and denoising, and if you don't set it up properly, if you don't know how to film, guess what? It's going to overheat. It's not a camera fault, it's not a flaw, it's on you, plain and simple. If you send your camera back for another one, that replacement is also going to overheat because it's how you set the camera up and how you're filming with it that's causing it to overheat to begin with. And that's what this video is about. It's about explaining overheating, showing you how a badly set up camera can easily overheat, and showing you how to set up your camera so it doesn't overheat. It's that plain and simple. Now, before we start with the examples, do me a favor and click on those like and subscribe buttons. I take a huge amount of time out of my very busy day to make these videos to solve your camera issues. I fund and pay for all of these videos out of my own pocket, and you clicking like and subscribe helps fund those videos. It gets them shown to more people, which means YouTube pays me money to make them, and you're helping more people solve their camera issues. So click like and subscribe now, it costs you nothing and it really helps out with this channel. Okay, so for our first test, we're going to be switching to the camera booth where I have a GoPro Hero 10, GoPro Hero 11 and GoPro Hero 12 ready to start filming. And they aren't just set up badly, they are set up incredibly badly. And as they start recording, allow me to explain what's happening. So these cameras are set up to record in 5.3K 30 frames per second. GPS is on, stabilization is set to high, except on the Hero 11 and 12 where it's set to auto boost. The rear screens are set to 100% brightness and not to power off at all. The bitrate's set to high, wireless settings are turned on. They're shooting in widescreen 16:9 and we're going to see how long they last. Now my own prediction is that the Hero 12 may last a little longer simply because the Hero 12 doesn't have GPS, so it's not logging GPS while it's recording. So let's see how long they last. So with these cameras as badly set up as they were, I decided to see how long they could run before they overheat and shut down. Only the results were kind of unexpected. If you were to believe what everyone on the internet says, these cameras should have shut down in 10 minutes or less. It should also be the temperature of the sun and be burning a hole through the ground to the Earth's molten core, where it would actually heat up the molten core even more. Only I had a problem. Because I was in a bit of a rush to make this video, I didn't have all my batteries fully charged, so whereas the Hero 11 and Hero 12 had 100% battery, the Hero 10 had to make do with a battery that was only 73% charged. Now, I didn't think this was an issue because the camera would surely shut down in 10 minutes. Only, it didn't. It didn't shut down in 20 minutes either. Or 30 minutes. In fact, this was becoming a problem as my not fully charged battery was starting to run out of juice. In fact, it looked like the camera wasn't going to shut down at all and that the battery had run out before the camera overheated. In fact, the Hero 10 was about 11% battery when it finally shut down, after 37 minutes of recording. Now that was a far cry from the 10 minutes that people were claiming on the internet, so what about the other cameras? Now with the Hero 11 I was running into a somewhat similar problem, even though it was set up to record in the same 5.3K 30 frames per second high bitrate and left the exact same settings as the Hero 10, it wasn't overheating. In fact, it wasn't until it hit the 49-minute mark with 20% battery remaining that the Hero 11 finally shut down. 49 minutes on a badly set up camera. Yeah, wow. That left only the Hero 12. Set up in the same 5.3K 30 frames per second, at 50 minutes it had 30% battery remaining. Now in all honesty, HDR was not enabled, and this is because the Hero 11 and Hero 10 don't have HDR, and I was trying to set up all three cameras as similarly as possible. So same frame rate and resolution, and so the waiting game began. I watched as the battery drained down and the recording time went up. In fact, it wasn't until the battery hit 12% and the camera had been running for 1 hour 4 minutes and 5.3K 30 frames per second that the camera finally overheat and shut down. And remember, these cameras were as badly set up as possible. So as you can see, all three cameras shut down due to overheating. Now, that's not unexpected given how badly they were set up. So what's so bad about these settings I was using? Well, let me list everything that's wrong. These cameras are sitting still, indoors, not being used for any type of action at all. And spoiler alert, these are action cameras. So let's go through the settings one by one. Resolution is set to 5.3K. But why? They're indoors sitting still. There isn't exactly a lot of detail in the frame. They aren't filming fast moving action. They're not filming some epic vista where you want clouds, mountain, lakes, trees all captured to blow people away. So I set the resolution to 5.3K. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of creators out there who will insist that they need these settings for the highest quality possible when they want to zoom in and crop and get ultra mega details because they're piano players, guitar players, and will insist they need to show where the fingers are, the keys and strings. And here's a thought, why not just shoot in 4K, move the camera closer? Still, let's say you're inside and you want to shoot in 5.3K. Okay, let's move on to the next setting. Hyper smooth on full or auto boost. Why? Look, your GoPro does come equipped with Emmy Award winning stabilization, it's true. The thing is, that stabilization, it's not needed while your camera is sitting still on a tripod or a table doing nothing. It's not bouncing around, it's not being moved, it's just sitting there. So turn off that stabilization. I mean, that's a huge workload that your camera doesn't need to be doing if it's not moving. But what if you're walking around with your GoPro? What if you're moving about? Turn it on by all means, turn it on to its lowest setting. Look, like I said, that stabilization is really, really good. If you're just making a walking around video, doing a video blog, making a simple tourist video, then having it set to low will give you great stabilization. If you're not running or jogging on uneven surfaces, jumping over boulders or fallen trees or logs, and holding that camera on a selfie stick when you do it, then yes, you may need to have that camera stabilization set to high or auto boost to compensate for those huge movements. But if you're walking around or even jogging on a level surface, set it to its lowest setting. And if that camera isn't being moved much at all, if it's been mounted somewhere still like on a tripod, then turn off Hyper Smooth completely. You do not need it. GPS. Now obviously this does not apply to the Hero 12, there is no GPS. But on earlier model GoPros that have GPS, well again, if that camera is indoors sitting on a tripod, you don't need to be logging GPS. It's doing nothing but logging one single GPS point. So turn it off. In fact, unless you're intending to use GPS in your videos, then I just leave it off altogether. I mean, if you absolutely need GPS stats, then sure, yeah, turn it on by all means, but otherwise just leave it off. It's not needed, and you can just turn the darn thing off. Displays. Let's talk about that GoPro Hero display. It's a really, really helpful, nice display, and it's really, really, really bright. In fact, this display isn't only a battery drain, it's also a heck of a heat generator. The display is so bright because many end up using the camera outdoors in bright sunlight, and if it's bright sunlight outside, they're probably wearing sunglasses. So in order to be seen in bright sunlight while wearing sunglasses, this display has one heck of an output. However, I always set my display to 10% brightness and to power off after 1 minute. Why? Well, let's just take a look at the camera. It's just sitting there doing nothing and it's indoors. It's not even sunny out and I ain't wearing sunglasses. So I don't need to set it to 100% brightness and not to power off after 1 minute. In fact, if you're using this camera indoors, I would suggest those exact settings. Set it to 10% brightness and to power off after 1 minute. Even if you're creating videos indoors, once you have that camera framed and set up properly, you don't need to stare at yourself on the screen, unless you're really, really vain or something. And even if you are vain, you can still set that camera to, or that screen to 10% brightness, as that is still plenty bright. Then we have the wireless settings. Look, controlling the GoPro using the app is really easy to do for offloading footage once you've finished filming. Yes, use the app and the wireless connections. However, right now, the cameras are sitting still. I can easily reach them, press the buttons myself, or even use voice commands to start and stop recording. So I don't need to leave wireless turned on. Now, don't get me wrong, you don't actually have to turn off wireless connections. The battery savings isn't that great. But if I'm not using wireless, then absolutely I turn off the wireless settings. Okay, so now that we've adjusted all of those settings, we're going to run this test again, and we're going to see what a difference adjusting these settings to the settings I'm using will make. So are you ready? Here we go. So due to the late night and the fact I was waiting for the batteries to charge again, I decided to wait until the following morning, which is today, to create the next part of this video. Haven't even shaved yet, but this is one of the things, like I said, a badly set up camera will overheat very quickly, but it will also use up your battery a lot quicker. And what I decided to do for this setup was I decided to set up the cameras using my own personal settings, kinda. I mean, allow me to explain, there are 3 things that I did with these cameras that I would never do usually when I have my camera set up. Number 1, I just wouldn't film this way to begin with. I mean, I would never put a camera sitting still to film for over an hour in 5.3K. I mean, I certainly wouldn't do that with an action camera, but there are people who are going to do this, or people going to insist on doing this, and that's the only reason I set up the cameras for 5.3K 30 frames per second and set them there. And I mean, honestly, folks, get a 4K webcam, but hey, if you insist on doing that with your GoPro, that's fine. And that's exactly what I did for this test. Number 2, I left the wireless settings on. Usually, if they are going to be sitting there within reach, I'm just going to press the button or even use a voice command. But in this case, I thought maybe I'd get some screenshots and maybe you want to control using the app. So I just left the wireless connection setting on, but usually I would turn that off. And then number 3, I left all the LEDs on. Now, that was more for a visual reference, so that when I'm recording the battery test with this, you can see the light flashing on and off, and you know the camera is actually recording. Otherwise, you'd just see a blank kind of camera just sitting there like that, and you'd have to take my word for it that it was recording. Didn't want to do that, so I left the LEDs turned on. So now that that's out of the way, what changes did I make to improve the run times and reduce overheating? Well, I have a list here, and let's see. So I set the rear screen to 10% brightness and to power off after 1 minute. Look, if the camera's like sitting there recording me, okay, I've already framed the shot. I can see that in the front screen here where I'm framed. I don't need to keep watching that screen. I am not that vain. So I know the camera's framed and set up properly, so I can talk here, I can do whatever, and you know, I don't need to have that screen on. So yeah, that's going to improve your battery life. It's also going to prevent, you know, temperature building up, because if you leave that to 100% brightness, that is a heck of a heat generator. Then, because the camera is sitting still doing nothing, I turned off stabilization. It is not needed. I also turned off GPS. Absolutely not needed. The camera is just sitting there. And then finally, on both the Hero 10 and the Hero 11, I turned off high bitrate. Yes, I put this to standard bitrate. Here's the thing about bitrate, and before you go around saying that, oh my gosh, I need the highest bitrate possible. Yeah, if you're flying a drone outside at high speeds, if you're racing a car around a mountain track and you want to get all that scenery in, or even if you're surfing next to the world's best beach and it's got all those colors, there's fast motion going, yeah, absolutely have high bitrate turned on. However, if your camera is just sitting there and recording this, you know, you don't need high bitrate. There's not a lot of movement. If you're like doing a tutorial with guitars playing, whatever, you want to show your fingers, that's the only tiny bit that's going to be moving. You don't need high bitrate. So yeah, on the 10 and 11, I put the bitrate to standard. On the Hero 12, I left it set to high because I just forgot to turn it off down to standard. So those are the settings I used. So what were the results? Well, interesting is what they were. So let me go through them here, and I've got the clip. I'll just sponge in here. So the Hero 10 and the Hero 11 both lasted for 1 hour 24 minutes before they shut down due to low battery. No overheating, low battery, and that's a 5.3K 30 frames per second. Now the Hero 12, that lasted for 1 hour 31 minutes. Again, that's a 5.3K 30 frames per second and with a high bit rate. Again, it didn't overheat, it shut down due to low battery. No overheating for any of the cameras. So why didn't they overheat? Well, because they were set up properly for the filming conditions that I was using. Look, I have seen a lot of stuff online, you know, on the forums where people say, hey, my GoPro overheated in 10 minutes. Well, they didn't overheat in 10 minutes. The quickest I could get the Hero 10 to overheat in was 37 minutes. That's a far cry from 10 minutes, and that was with a badly set up camera. And set up properly, they didn't overheat at all. And, you know, that's something I see in the forums. I even see people saying, I don't know whether to get a GoPro or not because I keep hearing all these problems where they overheat. Well, as the video just shows, if you set up your camera properly, it doesn't overheat. I mean, for me, I think the whole overheating thing is a myth, and I think people are missing out on an important part when they see most of these overheating videos online. Now, if you look at some of the more famous content creators and they do overheating videos, yeah, they show the camera overheating, they show the camera shut down. I've made videos like that. But we've all said one thing: we would never film like this, and we're setting up the cameras in a way that they do overheat and shut down. So, will a GoPro overheat? Yes, absolutely. If you set it up badly, if you set it up deliberately to overheat and shut down, then that's exactly what you're seeing. You're seeing the camera overheat when pushed to the limits. So, to sum up, if you have just gotten a new GoPro for Christmas and you're experiencing overheating problems, it's not a problem with the camera. It's not a problem with your SD card, likely. But it's usually a problem with the way you have the camera set up for the type of filming that you're doing. So hopefully this video shows that by changing a few settings on your GoPro, you can easily combat overheating and you can run until the battery goes. And with that in mind, I hope that you've had a Merry Christmas. It's actually the 24th of December right now, so I won't have this video probably uploaded until after Christmas, likely when a lot of people will have unwrapped their GoPros, started using them, and then wonder, hey, why is it overheating? Well, this video explains why. This video shows you what to change, and I hope you like that as a Christmas present. So don't forget to click those like and subscribe buttons. I appreciate you watching, and until next time, cheerio.